From the incredible, great reading room here at the illustrious University of Oklahoma, this is the Bozcast. Parker Thune, the podcast's namesake, Brian Bosworth over there, and sitting between us, the general manager of OU football and a very popular man on campus these days, Jim Naggie. Man, thanks so much for doing this. Thanks so much for stopping by. How's everything?
Absolutely. This place is incredible. I was just saying.
Never been in here?
I've never been in here. No, I haven't been in a library.
No, this is where students get it done. They come in here and read it.
Yeah, this is
so crazy to talk about in college sports, especially University of Oklahoma. We got a general manager that has to manage all of this that's going on in our world right now. How crazy is that? And by the way, a big shout out to you. I didn't realize. Go Hawks! You were a scout for the Seattle Seahawks for what, 5-6 years?
Yeah.
You built that first Super Bowl champion.
First Legion of Boom team. Yeah, that was fun.
How proud of you? How proud of the guys were you? This last time, that's probably the best Seahawk team I've ever seen.
Yeah, no,
and not many stars. They did that with grit.
That's right. No, they're a gritty team, and John Schneider, their GM's a really good friend of mine. He's really my biggest mentor probably in my career. So, no, I was pulling for those guys. It was cool to see. You know, they had, they went to those 2 Super Bowls, and then it was like 10 wins, 9 wins, and they were kind of in that purgatory area a little bit. And
that was Seahawks. You know, that's just the history of the Seahawks. It's always in that 500.
But they made some hard decisions on the football side, and they traded DK Metcalf and they let Tyler Lockett go, but that allowed Jackson Smith and Jigba to become the best receiver in the league. So no, it was awesome. It was good seeing those guys, the parade and everything. That was special.
Well, man, you've been here at Oklahoma for a little over a year now, and you were in the NFL for over a quarter century, long time. Mm-hmm. And coming to college football for the very first time, I'm sure there was evidently, based on the results, both on the field and on the recruiting trail, a lot that you and your guys were prepared for. I'm sure there's also quite a bit that you had to learn in real time. So what do you think has been the biggest lesson for you over the course of your first year at Oklahoma?
Ooh, man, lots of learning lessons. I felt like I was prepared for the job, but just never working in college football. It's different. I had a lot of friends working in college football. I was in a building every day for, like you said, a quarter of a century. I was in buildings like this every day, but to be in the inside and the inner workings, and everything's changing fast. You guys know that. Yeah. So I'd say the biggest learning lesson was just learning the landscape a little bit, like with the salary structure. That's really one thing we've talked about, that you could clean up college football pretty quickly if there was more transparency on what we're paying these guys.
Sure.
In the NFL, if you want to go out and get a wide receiver in free agency, whatever level that player is, a starter or a Pro Bowl or whatever that is, within a pretty finite range of what that's going to be. Here, I mean, you're throwing a dart a lot of times, and we're all working on different salary structures. There's all sorts of numbers out floating all over. I just got off the phone with another SEC head coach this morning, just like, what's next year's roster look like for you guys? Just trying to get a gauge of where other teams are at. So that's probably been the biggest learning lesson has been, man, this thing is pretty fluid, and you gotta adjust and be on your toes. And we talked about that when I got here. You got to be ready to adapt. And the best part of the past year is just launching this new structure and getting everybody on the same page. And I would say right now the most fun days are when we have recruits on campus, because then you see the true collaboration between the scouting side and the coaching side come together. Everybody's hard work. We get them to Norman, we feel like we've got a really good chance. Mm-hmm. If you're a recruit from another part of the country, you hear Norman, Oklahoma, you might not know a lot. So our key is, man, we get them here, we got a really good shot at getting these players.
Yeah, and it's different that you haven't touched on there. Building a franchise in the NFL, when you're evaluating a player, you're going to have them. I mean, you're going to have them for 3 or 4 years. When you're doing that here at the University of Oklahoma or any other university, it's kind of a crapshoot. We're beginning 1 year. Is it a long-term transactional? How much influence are we going to have on this kid? How do you approach that change in building the program?
Well, and that's something I felt really good about just going through the interview process. So go back a year ago, last February when I interviewed. They're coming off a 6-7 season, and I know what a losing building can feel like. Yep. It's usually not a great vibe in those buildings. And when I was here for that day, I remember calling my wife that night, and I was like, honey, there's a good vibe in this building for a team that's coming off a 6-7 season. So I knew that Coach Venables and the staff had the culture in a good spot. So we feel like, we retained all our starters this year in the portal. Like, guys aren't looking to leave here once they get here. Certainly guys, if they're not starting after 2 or 3 years, they might want an opportunity to go, start somewhere else, and we can't do anything about that. But the guys we want to keep want to be here, so that's a good thing. I mean, not all cultures are built this way, and some schools, guys are going year to year to year. I think if we can get our guys here, they'll want to stay.
Yeah.
I recall when you took the job, some of the early comments you made, the early interviews you did, the cynics about your hiring said things.
There were cynics?
There were cynics, believe it or not, there were. And they said things to the effect of, does he really just think he's going to out-scout everybody? And I recall your response to that was, well, I hope so, based on my track record in the NFL. And as the story goes, one of the very first spring practices that you were here for last year, one of the guys you picked out, you thought was going to be a big breakout guy at Oklahoma, was number 38, Owen Heineke.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, look at what he did in 2025 and the value that he added for this program in his 4th year of college football as a walk-on, originally a walk-on, that is. And so for you, I'm really curious, I think a lot of folks would be curious, on the practice field on a daily basis, you're the GM, there's no coaching that falls upon you. What is your main objective when you're going out to practice? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to see? What do you want to get out of that couple of hours?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I rotate position groups, every day, and I try to spend time really focused on that group for one day, and just all the takeaways, man. Just see who's moving better this offseason, who's stronger. Again, just dialed into the little things, like who's taking coaching, who's a good teammate. Those things matter. If you're not playing, like I think all our guys are concerned about, I need to play. I need to get on the field and I need to do this. I'm like, guys, you can create value for yourselves just by being the right guy in the building. Because if you're a young guy in the SEC, it's hard to play in this league as a freshman and sophomore. You know that. Yeah. You got to be a true stud to come in here, walk in the door, play as a true freshman in the SEC. But you can do other things. So I'm in tune to that stuff. We're looking at everything. But yeah, I try to take a position group a day.
But part of that is the analyzation of the player before they get here. What kind of character do they have? Do they have that, I'm going to work when the eyes aren't watching, because that's when growth really occurs? Because those are really the difference in creating champions, both off the field and on the field. And those champions that are on the field are leaders, but it's those champions that are off the field that lead those guys that have more of a kind of a blasé approach to, I've been doing it for years and I think I'm good enough, I don't need to do the extra work. That doesn't get it done here at the University of Oklahoma. How do you weed that part of it out in that process?
No doubt. And I think, coming from the NFL, some of the skeptics might have been like, well, this isn't the NFL. But, the difference being in the NFL, you draft a player. If you're working for the Buffalo Bills or Green Bay Packers, I'm picking like cold weather cities. If you're a kid from Florida and they draft you, you're going. I understand that this is recruiting. They have to pick us. But at the same time, that can't limit us as well. Like, we can be choosy, we can be selective. And I think now that we're paying players and there is a business element to this, like, we have to look at, the maturity level of these guys, the families they come from. All those things play a huge role in it. And it's about the wiring of the player. And the great thing is Coach Venables and I and the staff, we're all on the same page in terms of what kind of guys are going to work here. Now there's flashier places around college football to go to school. We get that, flashier programs. We're going to end up with the guys that we should end up with. We're going to be who we are, and if that attracts the kids here, then we know we're getting the right guy. And we've pivoted. We've had guys on visits here that are good players, good football players, and they spend a day in the program, and our eyes are always working, and our antennas are always up, and we meet the next morning after players are in, and we kind of download from everybody that has time. If it's someone on the recruiting staff, one of the recruiting girls, like golf carting a kid across campus, we want to know how that conversation was. Did something come up? Because those little things will tell us, like, are they guys that are going to be Sooners?
Filling those gaps with the conversations that you just spoke about with Coach Venables, what is that relationship like? Because I know what Coach Venables is trying to do here, and he's done a masterful job of it, not only here, but at Clemson and back here in the early 2000s. It's all about the character and the culture and building that. At the same time, you've got to look at it from the standpoint of the talent of the player. What's he going to bring to fit the needs of what we need right now? Who makes that decision in those conversations between you and Brent? He's a great kid, but he didn't have the talent. Versus, this guy's an unbelievable talent. but he doesn't have the culture.
Yeah, they need to have both.
You got to have both. So you're on board with agreeing that he's got to have both, or he doesn't get here.
No doubt. And that happened, in the first interview. I told Coach Venables, like, our staff's going to dive in and try to learn these players, and we're going to get on the same page. So I'll just, just to pull you behind the curtain a little bit. So let's just say that our staff watches all this tape. At the end of the day, we're trimming the fat for the coaches. Okay, Like they have full sign off on these players. So let's say we bring 8 offensive linemen to Coach Beatonbow, and we like all 8, or we wouldn't be pushing him to the position coach and wasting his time with it. But say he doesn't like 2 of the players. Like, we'll watch the players, and if we can't get on the same page, well, there's 6 guys that he does like. Now, those are the guys we're going after. Now we got to get them on campus and see how they're wired. And if after the visit or after multiple visits or the coaches being on the road, we got to download every time, because guys could if they're on campus here and they can't put on a good face and put their best foot forward, then there's probably something wrong with them to start with.
Well, they're on the portal they're in the portal for a reason.
That's right.
Like, on that lodge, you got to go. There's one thing to go kicking the tires. It's another thing to get behind the wheel and take it off the road.
Yeah, if we're talking about the portal, that's really the challenging part, because when you're in the NFL, you have all this information on these players. In the portal, you got to make decisions like that. Like, we had those guys in. We had 11 players here the first weekend of the portal. We ended up signing 10 of them, and thank God, like, now that they've been here on campus 3 months, we feel like we hit on all of them in terms of being, the right guys that are good fits, because you can make mistakes in the portal because you don't have enough information. But
why is that? Why is it so hard to get that kind of? You can't go back, or you don't have the time to talk to the coaches that have coached them, whether it's in college or high school, or talk to their families or their teammates. What is it about the transfer portal that's so suspect?
Well, I mean, the schools they're leaving, for the most part, they're not good. There's not a good feeling there, right?
Yeah,
like,
there's
a little sour grapes.
He's great, you'll love him.
There's a little sour grapes there usually when guys are in the portal. So again, just tying it back to like relationships, everything in football is relationships. It's such, just such a small world in the football world. So we leaned heavily into NFL scouts. That had already been on campus. Let's use Hayden Hansen, for instance, the tight end from Florida.
Sure.
The scouts that went through Gainesville last fall were already starting to do work on Hayden Hansen. So we hit a bunch of those Southeast scouts up, and like, what were they saying about Hayden in the building there? So that's an example of just using those connections to try to get answers. But it's more difficult than when you're in the NFL.
A term you have used, and that several other members of your front office have used repeatedly, is targeted efficiency. And right now, you guys have the #1 recruiting class in the 2027 cycle by a country mile. 20 commits by the end of March. That's unheard of. How has that happened? How, in a year of you and your staff being in place, have you guys been able to develop such a refined method for that targeted efficiency that you talk about?
That's a Lake Dawsonism, by the way. That's Lake's. The lake loves that term. But no, it's real. It's something real. We don't cast a huge wide net. We really don't. I think you can spread yourself way too thin in recruiting if you've got your position coaches, if you've got your running backs coach hitting up 12 running backs. Like, there's just not enough time in the day for these guys anymore. So we got to be really targeted. And again, I think the thing that's overlooked with our staff, everyone thinks we're just like evaluating players, and that's not what we. There's another level of recruiting in there too. Our whole staff. I mean, I don't want to name any names because I think our whole staff does a great job of being that next layer. Of course, the coaches are going to run point on the recruitment. I mean, if you're coming out of high school right now as a linebacker, you want a relationship with your linebackers coach. We get that. You want a relationship with Coach Venables. He's going to be calling the defense. But at the same time, like, when I put this staff together, I just didn't, put together a group of guys that are tape watchers. Like, I wanted everyone to have some presence, some juice, some connectability, so they can get these kids on the phone. Older guys like myself and Lake, like, we're connecting more with the parents at our age probably right now but we've got younger guys on the staff that are connected with the players. So again, it's just another level of recruiting, and it's just not all on the coaches. Yes, they're the primary recruiters, but I think our staff does a really good job on that front too.
Now that the NIL has created this money flow, the crazy stories that you hear from the ask on these players. And I remember last year I came in to help you guys recruit in June, and the first question I asked Coach Venables, how are you handling those recruits that come in? There's 2 handshakes. It's either with the hand up or the thumb up or the palm up. And he goes, if the palm up, it's already a red flag, and we're not going to deal with that. I mean, we're going to have conversations about the money early, but we want to get to know them. Talk about some of the crazy asking. How do you
Yeah.
You talk with moms and the dads, the aunts and the uncles. I want to go, I need this, I got that.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I think that your red flags is a good way to put it. I mean, if there's red flags in the recruitment in terms of the maintenance scale, like, we just want low maintenance guys that love football and want to compete and want to be here for the right reasons. If they're here to make a huge buck or want cars, and of course we do everything we need to do to compete, but we want low maintenance guys. If it's about too much of that stuff, then we know it's not the right guy. Yeah. I think they tell on themselves a little bit, and you see what other schools are recruiting. I mean, we know what other schools are doing. We don't need to get into that, but we know what some of the other programs are doing. And if it's us and like 3 or 4 programs that don't do it similar to us, we're like, okay, this probably isn't a guy for us.
Well, I find it fascinating that there seems to be, and again, I can't relate to the culture of the recruitment in today's game versus what it was for me back in my day.
It would have been crazy for you.
Probably would have been, but for the most part, I was the one that was out in front making the decision because I knew it was best for me. Mm-hmm. And it seems like now there's more of an involvement with the entire family being entitled to be part of that recruitment because they raised the player or they were there to put him through, all of the school and all the training and and they want to be on the payroll as well. And I know it's hard for young athletes to disassociate themselves from their mamas and daddies and their aunts and the uncles, but this is their journey. Yeah. And I think imparting that, not wanting to divorce the kid from their family, but just making that kid have enough confidence to say, this is your journey. Mm-hmm. You've done the work. There's a lot more work to be done, and you don't know how much work is ahead of you in order for you to be the success that you want to be. But in order to do that, this has got to be your decision. Can't be theirs. It's got to be yours. And how do you get that conversation going without offending everybody and go, well?
And that's when we talk about we recruit the families as well. That's what I'm getting at is when
we want them to be part, but not integrated into it.
Before college players were getting paid, I would say, like, if you asked an NFL scout, if you just want to boil down, like, what are scouts trying to figure out for the NFL level, and I know this is sensitive to when you played, we were trying to figure out which guys are mature enough to get to the NFL, have some money in their pockets, more time on their hands. Who's going to be able to manage that NFL lifestyle, right? Things can get crazy, and people can come out of the woodworks, and there's a lot of different stakeholders. Well, now, the things that's not being talked about enough, it's one thing for a 22 or 23-year-old kid coming out of college after being in college that whole time to face those challenges. These guys are facing it now at 17 and 18, that they've got all this outside pressure and people in their ears, and so that's really hard. That's really hard. So we not that every family has to be perfect. No families are perfect, but we want really supportive homes and the parents and the families to be about the right stuff as well. It's not just the young man. It's who's around him, and that can look any certain way, right? Yeah. That doesn't have to be like a 2-parent home, or it can be whatever it needs to look like. Grandma and grandpa, aunt and uncle raising him, whatever it looks like. But there has to be support and stability. So, like, again, when it's situations not like that, when there are a lot of people in the air and a lot of people with their hands out, that's when you're in the portal year to year, because you're always looking for more money. We got to stay away from those situations. Yeah.
We're taking questions here with Jim Naggie. Wallace Marcia, my producing partner, is joining us here on the set. Wallace, you got the first question for Jim?
I do. Jim, the University of Oklahoma, we're quite unique in that 1972 we had 8 college football Hall of Famers, players and coaches on that team.
Wow.
Those teams lost 2 games over a 4-year period and won 2 national championships.
Wow.
1984, we had 7 Hall of Famers. Those teams played for 3 national championships, winning the national championship in 1985. Back then, when we were winning national championships, we were able to build and retain rosters. In today's game, do you think that it's possible to build a roster like that and to retain it for 2, 3, 4 years? Or is 2 years kind of the max window?
No, I think you can. I think it's a little more challenging now for sure. But I think you can do it. I think this offseason proved it. I mean, we signed all our starters back, and they had great opportunities. It's just like in the NFL. If you win a Super Bowl, the middle part of your roster, I mean, those guys will get overpaid. Everyone wants to get a piece of the champion, and making the college football playoff, our guys got a lot of interest. But I will say this, it speaks to the culture that Coach Venables and the staff have built. These guys want to stay here. This is a great place. We take care of our players.
They get more out of it being here at the University of Oklahoma than just being a player. There's a culture and there's a family dynamic that's built here. I don't know if it's like that in other universities, but I know it's built here and it's strong. And 40 something years later, still got strong relationships with the players I played with. I don't know if it's like that, but that's got to be a big selling point for some of these guys to stay around.
It is. It's about, I would say this, it's about identifying the right players out of high school and bringing in the right guys and I think Boz and his group, they celebrated their 40th anniversary of the 85 championship team last year during the year. That was awesome having those guys back and seeing that brotherhood and it's real. I think we have that on our football team right now. But having Boz on the sidelines on Saturdays, that's a big thing for us. Like, people don't think about that. When you have your former players come back, it just feeds into the family part of the culture. So yeah, I do. I think it's more difficult, but I think you can do it. If it didn't, I probably wouldn't have taken the job. I don't want to do this year to year. I want what's important to me. I want the fans to know this. Like, it's important for me that our fans know our players. Yeah. And it's probably more difficult in some of the other sports. Like in basketball, it's much harder for Porter to keep a basketball team together. You look at the Final Four right now, some of these teams, it's just a collection of transfer guys every year, and you kind of start over. I don't want to do that in football. I want our fans to come to the stadium and know Kip Lewis is out there, and the Bowen brothers are out there, and Jaden Jackson and David Stone. Like, rattle off names. Those guys are going to be all-time Sooners. That's where we want to live. But I think it all goes back to finding the right guys out of high school.
Is retaining players different than going into the portal and signing new players? And if so, how is it? Because like in my business, they always say retention. To retain an employee, you'll slightly overpay because you know what you're going to get. You find that that's true with the players you have right now, that the retention and keeping what you have is more important than maybe going and trying to bring somebody new in?
Retention is always the goal. Retaining the core of last year's playoff team was the goal in the offseason. Again, it starts with the starters. Want to bring all those guys back. It's great when you can get all the role players, but there's going to be guys that feel like let's just say on this year's football team, you got Cortland Guillory and Eli Bowen coming back at corner, and they were both freshman All-Americans, they're both great players. If you're an upperclassman behind those two guys and you want to start, we're going to lose guys. That's going to happen. But yeah, retainment's always critical. And I do, I actually think after going through a cycle, you're going to overpay in the portal. You actually get a little bit of a hometown discount when you can keep your guys because they know the value of this place. Yeah. The relationships are there. I give our coaching staff a ton of credit for the retention part because they like their coaches. They feel an investment from their coaches. They feel loved by their coaches. Like Coach Venables, there's a lot of head coaches out there that and again, I know all these guys. I've been in these buildings for the last 30 years. I know almost every head coach in the country. And when I came on the visit with Coach Venables, I think that's what makes him different. Super intense individual, super genuine individual. You know what you're going to get, and he loves his guys. It's easy for me when the recruits go in Coach Venables' office and then they come over to my office. Like, I tell them, like, whatever, the person you met over there is the real guy. And that's not the case at every school. So I give our coaching staff a ton of credit for the retention part.
So it's not all about money.
It's not.
The coaches, head coaches still recruit players.
Absolutely.
Position coaches still recruit players.
I think that's a misperception right now. I think that the fans think this thing's all about money. I can tell you it's not. Do these guys want to be paid fair and what their market value is? Yes, but that's the hard part. No one knows what market value is because no one knows what the salaries are. Right. But and that's the balancing act. That's really one of my biggest challenges is that there's a great culture here. There's a great brotherhood here, and that's established over time. Coach Venables has been here 5 years, and they've worked really hard at that. I can undermine that real quickly in my role if we start paying these high school guys more than the guys that have been here. So there's a balance there. You have to get elite high school players. You have to do that, but it can't be at the expense of the current roster. So that's really, to me, if you ask me what my biggest challenge is with my role, it's that. It's making sure that the culture stays strong and we still can add great players from the high school level.
Brian, I know it's got to be music to your ears because your position coach, Gary Gibbs, is in Norman and you see him whenever you can.
Yeah.
And your head coach, Barry Switzer, so I know that's got to be music to your ears.
Well, creating a relationship to me is the strongest part of not only developing as a young man and maturing, but then taking that into the successes that you create later on in life because you have something to draw back on. The coaches not only cared about me, but they expected me to work harder. You're not going to get, just handed the starting. You had to earn that starting position, and then you had to continue to earn it by continuing to work and to continue to climb the ladder, and continue to not only you get better, but make the players around you get better. And that means that you've got to invest more into what you're trying to do here. Know more, study more, involve yourself not only with your development, but be a leader both on and off the field. And that makes it really part of the family dynamic. And that really, I think that family dynamic strength really comes from the success you have. If you notice, in the 90s, we struggled. We struggled here at the University of Oklahoma. That family dynamic, when it's successful, that family dynamic lasts for decades. So I think trying to build that is what Brent's been trying to do.
Yeah.
How much pressure did you lift off of his shoulders by coming here when you sat down with him and here you go, tell me what you're doing, Brent. What's the whole world of Brent? And he's like, I'm managing this, I'm doing everything but being a coach. Yeah. And I remember having that conversation with him, and he said, I've always wanted to maybe put my foot in the ring of being a coach. Coach Venables, what do you think? I even asked Coach Switzer and Coach Gibbs about it before I sent it up, and he goes, why in the hell would you want to do that? Your life is so calm now, it is not like the same deal. And so I asked Coach Venables, what do you think about me becoming a coach? And he goes, I spend about 30% of my time, and this is before you got here, I spend about 30% of my time being a coach. The rest of it, I'm just a manager, and it's hard. Mm-hmm. By you coming here, you've lifted that weight off of him, and now he can be a coach.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Coach Venables, but I'll say there's a lot of, even in, let's say, my role. Like I have, come up through the, scouting front office ranks, as an evaluator. Like I know that's what I'm good at. Yeah. And I go days without watching tape right now because I'm dealing with some other stuff. But that's what happens as a coach. You're a great position coach, then you're a great coordinator, then you get in the head coaching chair and you take on more of a CEO role and you're overseeing, and there's less hands-on coaching. And I know that's frustrating for a lot of these guys. And I'll say this in terms of like value, my value and our staff's value to the whole operation, and Coach Venables in particular, is there's a lot of things that we've taken off his plate so he can coach the team. And again, it's a little bit a different dynamic right now too, because he's our head coach. He's also our defensive coordinator. Yeah. And I took that responsibility, very heavy last fall. We get into the season and he's in the defensive staff room 95% of his time. He's in there drawing up cards. I mean, this guy's, we all know he's a mastermind, and that's what he's great at. Yeah. And so taking some of the stuff off his plate again, don't want to speak for him, but I imagine I allow him to do what he's great at more than probably he was able to do before. Yeah. So again, it's working really well. It worked well through last season. Look what we were on defense. And again, maybe they would have been great on defense if I weren't here, because we had great players and Brent's a great coach. But I do know on a daily basis he can focus more on those things, and I can deal with some of the stuff he probably would rather not deal with.
Do you guys sit down at the end of the season and look at and say, man, we're really close. We need to fill that position. I mean, last year we were so fortunate to have a defensive line that had a backup starting group. It was really just two starting groups. That's right. On top of each other. And if you can have a strong defensive line, and that takes so much pressure off that second level, and it puts the onus on the third level to just defend the pass. Because it's not getting past level 1 and level 2 every now and then. But building that kind of dominant defense is really the only way we're going to get back to the championship, especially in the SEC. If you don't have a dominant defense, you can't compete in the SEC. If we can't get out of the SEC, at least into the playoffs, going in with a dominant defense, then we don't have a chance. Do you guys talk about the players that we have now? Maybe wasn't the right fit. We got to replace them. Everybody's got contracts and everybody's got these, situations, and nobody wants to, have that conversation of, well, we got to cut a guy.
Yeah.
That's
part of it.
And that's a slippery slope for a university, because now all of a sudden you get the reputation. Don't go to the University of Oklahoma because for whatever reason you'll just get cut.
Yeah.
And then you become blackballed.
There's the delicate balance there for sure. We have those conversations, have to have those conversations. So, let's take last year. We finish up, we run the table in the month of November, get into the playoff, beat LSU. Now you're starting those conversations with the roster. We couldn't wait all the way till the Alabama game on December 19th to start having conversations for 2026. So we start engaging our roster on the retainment part. The conversations we downloaded with everyone on the first floor. So that's strength and conditioning, sports science, nutrition, athletic training. They all see the players through a certain lens, different lens than I see them through, different lens than the coaching staff.
You mean in terms of what the player is willing to do, sacrifice at that level?
When you're in the weight room, you see what kind of teammates guys are, right? When you're in the training room, you see who's putting in the time with the prehab and rehab, and because if you're doing those things, it's telling everyone football's important to you. You're taking your job seriously. So we downloaded with everybody on the first floor. Academics were included in this, and then we got to the coaching staff. Every assistant coach came into my office. We talked about each player by player. Where do you see the vision? Where do you see the growth? What's that room look like next year? What does that room look like if this guy's not in it? Here's where the 27 recruiting class, 26 recruiting class is at. So we've got we're always looking 2 years out. So we've got models right now for 27 and starting on 28. Crazy enough, we've already evaluated almost 700 players for the 28 class. So all those, and then at the end, then Coach Venables comes in and we have a full download of, okay, here's where the building is at, including your coaching staff. Where are you at? Where are we going with this thing? So it took a lot, and you're doing it while we're trying to prep for Alabama. So it's.
How much sleep do you guys get?
And not a lot, man.
I was going to say, a game's on Saturday. Are you already breaking down Saturday's game, and you've already started the game plan for the next game?
Yeah.
I mean, it's 20-hour days, right?
I will say this: I was warned by a lot of people when I took the job. So I take the job here, and people from all over college football. I said this at my opening press conference. I got dudes reaching out to me like, "Hey, welcome to the craziness." And I knew December and January were going to be a lot, but that 6-week stretch from December 1 till the portal closed on January 16th, whatever day that was. Not a lot of sleep, but at the end of it, we felt really good coming out of those 6 weeks. That for this 2026 football team, we really like the crew we got.
Cybermetrics, people talk about that, rushing yards, reverting to the mean, long runs, touchdown to interception ratios. Do you look at things like that, or is it more just so? Toby Rowland was on Twitter yesterday, and on an airplane, asked me anything, and somebody asked him.
I saw that.
Biggest surprise is that John material in New York City. Do you think for John to actually material to be a Heisman in New York City, he has? Is there a magic 3 touchdown per interception ratio, 3.5 touchdown per? Do y'all look at it like that and targets for?
I don't know about the Heisman Trophy, but I'll say this. So, take you back to last August. I spoke to the team in a team meeting at the end of August, and I told the guys, "Listen, fellas, I don't know a lot about a lot, but I know what a good football team looks like." And I was lucky enough in the NFL to be a part of 3 different organizations that won Super Bowls. So it's not just, I wasn't just at one place and I was in New England. It's not like I just saw the New England run. I was in Seattle. My first year in the NFL was with the 96 Packers. All 3 teams were built differently. So I've seen it built different ways, but I know what a good team looks like. And I told the players, I'm like, listen guys, you might not believe it, but coming off a 6 and 7 year, but there's enough in this room right now to win the SEC. Okay, now we didn't accomplish that goal, but we did make the playoff. We won 10 games. And when I made that statement, I really thought John Mateer would have had to play at a Heisman level for us to be that kind of team.
Right.
Now we all know what happened. John breaks the thumb on his throwing hand. Can't imagine a worse injury for a quarterback, right? There can't be a worse injury.
Yeah. A hand injury for a quarterback.
Can't even grip the football. And we make it through the year, and John guts it out. So looking forward to this year. we feel so good about this football team because we got all those guys coming back. We love our transfer portal guys. There's a couple guys in this freshman class we know can help right away. And then you got a healthy John Mateer coming back. And all John just has to be John. Like, he doesn't have to be anything more than that. If he's the guy who we know he is, we're going to be just fine on offense. You know, our jobs in the offseason were to put more around John and protect John better and give him more weapons like we feel like we did. But in terms of like the metrics and the stats, I think for the Heisman Trophy, something like that, we got to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
First of all, you're not
10 games plus.
If you're a quarterback to get to New York, you got to win at least 10 games. So there's that part of it, and then the rest of it will take care of itself. John's you know, the year before he got here accounted for 40-some touchdowns and all that. But again, I will say this for John: he doesn't care about that stuff. He wants to win. Yeah. I mean, that's all that matters to John, which is why we know we have the right guy. Like, you know, like in this era, there's not too many guys. I'll share this. I reached out to all the NFL GMs this offseason on a text. I'm like, hey guys, I'm looking to get some feedback on John Mateer. And one of the GMs was like, listen, like, we're not even really evaluating last year's tape because of the injury. He's like, but what I do know, in an era where these quarterbacks and these young players are so sensitive to social media, and if you throw an interception, you're gonna get killed in social media in the comments, and a lot of players worry about that stuff. You know, they get anxiety about that stuff. They read that stuff, whether they should or not, they do. And he put himself out there 3 weeks off surgery against Texas on the biggest stage because he wanted to play with his guys and go to battle with his guys. Like, that told that GM's like, that's all I need to know about John Mateer. You know, we'll evaluate the play on the field this year. We know who the dude is. You know, we know what kind of guy that is. So we're fired up. But I don't know if I answered your question about Toby's thing, but
you answered the question.
But we do. We look into all the metric stuff, and you know, we do. We weigh a lot of that stuff heavily in terms of, are we doing things right? Can we do things differently? Trying to learn, you know, not on the scouting side, but just coaching, scouting. We use all that analytical stuff as well. So data is a big part of what we do.
I do want to talk about, I just want to say 96 Green Bay Packers, Keith Jackson, Reggie White.
Mark Chimura, that was a good tight end room.
Yeah. So surrounding what you were talking about, surrounding John and giving him the help, I mean, it was obvious last year the help that was absent was the running game, and not having the dominant running game and trying to get, you know, positive yards on first down. And when I say positive, 2 yards isn't going to get it done. You got to get like 3, 5 yards, 7 yards, you know, consistently, so that second down is something that you can control, and the third down is manageable. We weren't able to do that in many instances throughout the course of the game, or the course of the season. And then we haven't had a dominant running back come in and just take the ball and bull his ass down that field. Go north and south. Enough of this east-west, and I don't know if it's philosophy in the way the plays are drawn up, because sometimes I just see, man, it takes a long time for that running play to develop. We're still running around in the backfield, and we're not even at the line of scrimmage yet, and we're dealing with the pressure of the defensive line on top of us. If we don't fix that this year, I think it's going to be another example of we're going to have to struggle and come up with find ways to win the games instead of dominate the games. And in Oklahoma history, with a strong defense, that we can build it and we can dominate the games, then we get back to that culture of a championship program. What are we doing on that offensive side to fill those gaps? Not only in the offensive line. I love what we did on the tight end. Now we got working tight ends that can be workhorses on the line to help in the passing game, or in the running game, but you can also help in the passing game. I'd love to see, you know, a little bit taller wide receiver, a little more range, a little more arm length. You know, it seems like our wide receivers we're stuck with these 5'10", you know, under 6 foot guys, and in the SEC, that's where we get hurt when we go in against guys that are, you know, 6'1", 6'2", long, rangy. You know, so it seems like some of the key positions, we're just not in the position to be dominant. We're good, but we got to be elite, and in order to be elite, we've got to fill those positions: offensive line, wide receiver, and running back. How close are we?
Yeah, running the football was a huge focus too. Retaining the roster, retaining the starters, and getting better in the run game. I think it all kind of plays into itself. Again, we need to give Ben Arbuckle, you know, better players. Yeah. And you know, we played 3 freshmen on the offensive line last year, so 3 young guys that got and you can speak to this. I feel like every player gets better between year 1 and year 2 as a starter. Like, give them the 1 year starting experience, they come back, they're different players. They're more confidence is a huge piece of it. I mean, for a young offensive lineman, you get beat up in this league. I mean, they're so good on the defensive line in the SEC that if you're a young guy and you're 18 years old going against a 22, 23-year-old defensive lineman,
He's been there for
they can
3 or 4 years,
they can rob your confidence.
Yeah.
So bringing the 3 freshmen back, Jake Michael this is going to be his 4th year starting at center in college football. I mean, he's an NFL draft pick. We went out and got a Marion Harris from Arkansas, who started 24 straight games in this league, who's another draftable level player. So now you feel really good about those 5. You talked about the tight ends. That was a huge focus. We needed to flip that room.
Yeah, we did.
I feel like we did it in 1 year, which is awesome.
With multiple guys.
With 3 guys. I mean, 3 guys that I think can play in the National Football League. You know, Hayden Hansen from Florida, Rocky Beers from Colorado State, and Jack Van Dorselier from Tennessee. I mean, Jack was a true freshman in the league last year, played in all 12 games for Tennessee. And you'll see it when you come out to practice if you haven't been yet. They look like, I mean, the room looks different. You go out there like, okay, those are NFL-looking tight ends.
Yeah.
So those guys, and then, you know, just getting the backs, you know, create more competition in that running back room. I think the last guy that you talked about getting downhill running, Ramondre Stevenson.
Yep. And
now look at him. He's a really good NFL player.
Yeah.
You know, Ramondre's having a great NFL career. So yeah, that was a focus. And I think having Coach Witten on board and Coach Wilson, I mean, they're bringing a lot of things from different places they were at where they ran the ball really well. I mean, Coach Witten, again, I think what's lost is just because he was a great player, and it is going to be really cool when he gets his gold jacket as a member of our staff. I think that's going to be a really special thing for Oklahoma. But he's also a great teacher. Not every great player can coach. You know, a lot of times great players expect every player to reach where they were, so they can't reach those guys that aren't as talented as they were. But Jason's a great teacher, and again, 17 years in the National Football League, he was exposed to a lot, you know, in Dallas. I mean, he played for a lot of different schemes, a lot of different coaches, and he's bringing some of that here. And to Ben Arbuckle's credit, as a young coach, he's open to it. You know, he's not one of these young, insecure coaches. Like, he's welcoming the input. So I'm excited about what we're gonna be doing running the football, and it was a major focus this offseason. Yeah.
I think that'll definitely give John the tools he needs that then he can dictate. Because what I saw from him at Washington State, you know, even with that roster, he was impressive. And then he started here with that same kind of impressive confidence. And you're right, you know, getting the injury to the hand, and then I think he came back. Personally, I think he came back a little too soon. But I get it, man. If you get a chance, an opportunity to play in the Cotton Bowl against the Texas Longhorns,
you're going to play Texas.
Yeah.
Oh hell, I don't. If I got a broken arm, broken leg, I'm still playing. You know.
So you know where he is.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And it just broke my heart that he couldn't be at the level that I knew he wanted to be at.
No doubt.
I want to see him succeed, and I was super proud of what the defense did last year, and I just want to see that offense take that next step. I love the acquisitions that we got here in the tight end room. That you hit that nail on the head. I think that those 3 guys with that coach is going to be a major difference, not only in the pass game but in the running game. But to me, the toughness on the offensive line and the depth in the offensive line has been what has been lacking in the last couple of years, and I think that's really robbed the opportunity for John to have a great year last year. We had great opportunities in the passing game, and I think sometimes he had to feel like he had to force it.
Yeah.
But
we had
that's
great
part
portal additions with wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, Trell Harrison, Parker Livingstone, we needed to get.
I love that guy.
Like you said,
from Texas.
We needed to get bigger. You know, Parker's 6'3",
Yeah.
you know, Trell's 6 foot, but he plays like he's 6'3", he plays big. That's what we liked about him. He can play inside and outside. So yeah, upgrades on the perimeter. And you hit it. I mean, Coach Biedenbo's as good as it gets in college football, you know, in terms of the respect factor across the football landscape, NFL. When I was at the Senior Bowl, I had a couple different NFL teams reach out and ask me, hey, do you know Bill Biedenbo? I'm like, yeah, sure I do. And they're like, you think you'd ever want to come to the NFL? And I'm like, well, I can't speak to that. I can call him, but no,
we don't lose him.
But he's now that I'm here. No, we're not taking those phone calls. But no, he's great at what he does, and I just think complementary football. You hear that phrase all the time. Like we didn't play complementary football last year. Like too many 3 and outs. Defense, we relied on the defense too much.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see that. I mean, Ben Arbuckle. We always talk about players between year 1 and year 2. I mean, this is a different league. This league is a different animal. Even compared to some other Power 4 leagues, I mean, the SEC is pretty unique in terms of what you go against week in and week out. And I won't say the name, but I talked to a coordinator in the SEC who's also coordinated in the Big Ten. And he's like, there is a difference. Like there are some weeks off in the Big Ten where we got these guys. Yeah. Like you never feel that way in the SEC. So like Ben Arbuckle had great success at Western Kentucky and Wazoo. This is a little bit of a different beast. And now that he's been through it for a year, like he's going to be so much better too. So I'm excited for Ben to have some better pieces to work with and more experience on that side of the ball. Like we added almost 9,000 snaps this offseason. Wow. So like we added the fifth, we're in the top 5 in the SEC in most, snaps added. And then the bottom 5 in the least loss. So we netted out at like 8,800 snaps that we gained in the offseason. So a lot more experience on both sides of the ball, and we'll see where it goes. But to your point, man, I know we need to play more complementary football.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about the acquisitions, like I said, and I haven't been as excited about offensive football in the Oklahoma conversations for quite some time. But seeing that, I'm more excited about the offensive production this year. Can't wait to see how they perform during the spring. I'm going to go to the practice tonight and check them out. But super excited about the way you guys have moved into the SEC with the strength. I knew we didn't have what it took when we came from the Big 12 on the defensive side. Brent comes in and he makes that statement very demonstratively. We're going to have a suffocating defense, and he delivered on that.
He did.
And you're delivering on the offensive side, so I'm super excited about that.
Final question. Brian was a 2-time academic All-American. He talks about it a lot, about this current era, about players graduating and having a home. And I know it's important, but can you just talk about how the academics still exist for college athletes and academics are still important?
Absolutely. No, you spent a lot of time in here when you were in school?
A couple of times I walked through here.
This place is incredible. You probably couldn't go out much when you were in college walking.
Well, they had, back in those days, there was no set time limit, so they kept us as long as they could. The rules have changed. They only get a little window with the guys in there. So it's a little bit different in terms of study hall.
Yeah. No, it's a big focus of the program, and Coach Venables is really proud of what he's been able to do with his staff in terms of the overall team GPA. I think like 2.3, 2.4, whatever it was before he got here, to now we're right above a 3-point for like 5 of the last 6 semesters. He brings it up almost after every practice. Take care of your academics. We meet with the academic staff weekly. They're part of the staff meetings. So yeah, our guys are. They don't just do remote classes either. So some of the portal guys, got here and they've been the other places they've been remote only. They take all their classes online. They're like, no, our guys go to class here, and some of them really enjoy it. They're like, man, I didn't realize what I was missing out on actually going to a classroom,
interacting with other human beings,
guys at other
being part of the student body,
part of the student body. So no, that's a big part of it. So no, we take a lot of pride in it. We're trying to grow the whole man. When we recruit these players,
I love that, grow the whole man.
Brent's big on that, mind, body, and soul, and that's why the soul mission is such a big part of what we do as well. It's not just about football, because football is going to end for all these guys at some point. There's an expiration date on every athlete. Yep. And sometimes that happens immediately after Oklahoma. Sometimes it's after 10 years in the NFL. But these guys got to be ready, and it's on us. If we fail them in that sense, if we don't get them ready for life after being Sooners, then that's on us. So we take that really, really, really seriously.
Because I know Brian comes back for every home game, and you see 5, 10, 15, 20 of your teammates every home game. It's a homecoming for you guys, and I know how special.
We watch the games together on the sideline, man. I remember after the first touchdown last year, I turned around and I'm looking for somebody to high five, and Boz is standing there. I'm like, oh my God, I just high-fived the boss, man. This is cool. But
well, it's a blessing to be able to, because not every head coach allows the access that Brent allows me. So it really does feel like a blessing. Not only do I get to get on the sideline, but you get to interact with the players, even though he's told me, do not coach on that sideline. Sometimes I go, come on, man. He goes, eyes are always watching. But being in the locker room and interacting with the players at the level I do, and the staff with the level I do, and the ask is always there, and the answer is always yes, because to me, this is my home, and all the moves that have been made in these last couple of years have been the right moves and the correct moves, and it's moving our program forward, and you're a part of that. So I really appreciate what you've done so far, and I'm looking forward to what you do in the future.
Yeah, we are too. Thank you for that. It means a lot.
For all those questions that you had about how the operation here at the University of Oklahoma runs in the football program, right from the horse's mouth right here, not calling you a horse, but this is the man. We're lucky to have him.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Boomer Sooner, born and bred. Crimson dreams run through our heads. We don't flinch, we don't fold. That Sooner fire never gets old.